At 79, Barry Gibb has reached a stage in life where reflection carries more weight than ambition. For decades, fans have admired his voice, his songwriting, and his resilience, but few expected him to open up about the influence of another musical legend, Roy Orbison. In recent years, Barry has finally spoken candidly about the impact Orbison had on his own journey. The revelation has brought fresh light to the history of popular music, reminding audiences how interconnected the stories of great artists truly are. Barry's confession is not just about admiration, it is about truth, legacy, and shared genius. Barry Allen Crompton Gibb was born on September 1, 1946, in Douglas, Isle of Man. The second of 5 children to Hugh and Barbara Gibb, Barry grew up surrounded by a family that valued creativity and togetherness. His father worked as a band leader, and his mother kept the family grounded, even as the children displayed early signs of musical talent. From the beginning, Barry's life seemed destined to revolve around melody and rhythm. As a child, he was fascinated not only by the sounds of the radio, but also by the way songs could carry emotions across borders. He was naturally drawn to crafting little tunes, and his ear for harmony emerged early on. His siblings, particularly his younger twin brothers, Robin and Maurice, quickly joined him in experimenting with vocals and instruments. Music was not just a pastime in the Gibb household. It was a calling. Though his birthplace was far from the global centers of the music industry, Barry's spirit was already international. His combination of curiosity, emotional depth, and ambition set him apart from other children his age. By the time most kids were busy with toys or sports, Barry was already dreaming of records, stages, and the power of a perfectly written song. In the late 1950s, the Gibb family relocated to Redcliffe, Queensland, Australia, seeking new opportunities. For Barry, Robin, and Maurice, the move became the foundation of their journey as performers. They began singing at local events and radio stations, gradually honing the harmonies that would later define their sound. It wasn't long before locals began to notice their natural gift. The trio had something different, an instinctive ability to blend voices in ways that were both haunting and uplifting. Barry, though still very young, quickly emerged as the creative anchor of the group. He was not just the lead singer, but the one shaping melodies and penning lyrics. His early compositions revealed an emotional maturity unusual for a teenager, full of yearning, love, and stories that felt much older than his years. Australia gave them the stage to experiment. From talent contests to small gigs, the brothers built confidence and charisma. Every performance deepened their bond, not only as siblings but also as artists committed to a shared dream. By the end of the 1950s, it was clear to everyone who heard them that these boys were destined for something larger. They were not just entertainers, they were visionaries in the making, carrying within them the seeds of what would become one of the greatest acts in popular music history. In the early 1960s, the Gibb family returned to England, believing that their son's talent could find bigger audiences. London proved to be the perfect stage. The Bee Gees, as they were now known, found themselves at the heart of a rapidly evolving music scene. Barry's songwriting began to shine in ways that caught the attention of producers and fans alike. In 1967, the group's breakthrough came with New York Mining Disaster 1941, a haunting ballad that established them as serious storytellers. Shortly after, songs like To Love Somebody and Massachusetts captured audiences around the world. These tracks showcased not only the brothers' harmonies, but also Barry's gift for combining narrative and emotion in ways that felt universal. To Love Somebody, originally written with Otis Redding in mind, became one of the most covered songs in popular music. Its success was proof of Barry's ability to write across boundaries. His music could belong to anyone, anywhere. The Bee Gees were no longer just talented young singers from Australia. They were now an international phenomenon. This period also revealed how Barry was influenced by his peers. He admired artists like Roy Orbison, whose soaring voice and emotional delivery left a mark on him. Orbison's ability to make vulnerability sound powerful resonated with Barry, pushing him to explore the edges of his own vocal range. Though their paths were different, Barry later admitted that Orbison's artistry planted seeds in his own approach to singing and storytelling. The connection, though not widely discussed at the time, would later resurface in Barry's reflections about his career. The 1970s marked a turning point. Just as many bands faded after their initial success, Barry led the Bee Gees into a bold reinvention. Disco was on the rise, and Barry discovered that his falsetto, a vocal style he had experimented with earlier, fit perfectly into the new sound. The transformation was nothing short of revolutionary. With hits like Staying Alive, Night Fever, and How Deep Is Your Love, the Bee Gees became the heartbeat of the disco era. Their contributions to the 1977 Saturday Night Fever soundtrack elevated them to cultural icons. The album went on to sell tens of millions of copies, winning Grammys and defining an entire decade of music. Barry's falsetto became instantly recognizable. While some critics dismissed disco as a passing fad, Barry proved them wrong by creating songs that combined infectious rhythms with timeless emotion. His melodies carried joy, heartbreak, resilience, and longing, feelings that listeners across the world could identify with. It was during this era that Barry reflected often on artists who had influenced his journey. He noted how Roy Orbison's emotional power had shown him that vulnerability could be strength. Orbison had sung about loneliness, loss, and heartbreak in ways that reached into the soul. Barry carried that lesson into the Bee Gees' disco hits. Behind the pulsating beats, there was always storytelling, a thread of humanity that lifted their songs beyond the dance floor. The 1970s cemented Barry's reputation not only as a singer, but also as a visionary songwriter. His ability to reinvent himself and guide his brothers into a new sound was rare in an industry where many acts vanished after a single era. With Barry at the helm, the Bee Gees became timeless. By the early 2000s, the Bee Gees had already secured their place in history. In 2001, they released what would be their final studio project, Islands in the Stream. The album symbolized the culmination of decades of music making, blending their trademark harmonies with the maturity of seasoned artists. For Barry, this moment was bittersweet. On one hand, it was a celebration of all they had achieved. On the other, it marked the end of an era. The Bee Gees had shaped popular music across multiple decades, and their legacy was now secure. Still, Barry's creativity was far from finished. He was determined to continue making music, whether through collaborations, solo projects, or mentoring the next generation. In 2002, Barry entered the studio with none other than Michael Jackson, one of his close friends and a fellow icon of modern music. Together, they recorded All in Your Name, a heartfelt single that emphasized unity, peace, and love. The collaboration was celebrated by fans as a historic moment, two legends combining their voices for a higher purpose. Beyond Jackson, Barry pursued projects that revealed new sides of his artistry. He released songs such as Drown on the River, Gray Ghost, and Daddy's Little Girl, each reflecting his versatility. Some carried the flavor of Americana, others delved into deeply personal themes, especially fatherhood. One of Barry's proudest moments came when he lent his voice to Living in the Rain, a single by his son, Steve Gibb. Supporting his children's musical journeys gave him a new sense of fulfillment, proving that the Gibb legacy was alive and thriving. These years also highlighted Barry's ability to balance global stardom with intimate artistry. Even after dominating charts and stadiums, he could still write songs that felt like personal letters to listeners. It was this duality, legendary yet relatable, that kept him relevant long after many of his peers had stepped away. Barry's role as a mentor became more visible in 2007, when he joined the judges' panel on American Idol during its 6th season. Millions of viewers were introduced to him not just as a superstar, but as a warm, guiding presence. His feedback was thoughtful and encouraging, rooted in decades of experience. Contestants saw in him both authority and kindness, a rare combination. For young performers, hearing advice from someone who had sold hundreds of millions of records was unforgettable. For audiences, it was a chance to see the man behind the myth, sharing wisdom openly. This role further extended Barry's reach to a new generation, ensuring that his influence would not only live in records, but also in the voices of aspiring artists. Beyond his work with the Bee Gees, Barry Gibb proved himself as one of the greatest songwriters of his era by writing hits for other artists. His pen gifted classics to Barbra Streisand, Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers, Diana Ross, and Dionne Warwick, among many others. His ability to adapt to different genres, pop, country, R&B, was extraordinary. He could craft a song for Streisand with the same ease that he could for Parton and Rogers, always capturing the unique essence of each performer. This versatility demonstrated his deep understanding of both music and emotion. Barry's influence spread far beyond his own stage performances. His words and melodies traveled the world through the voices of others, cementing his place as a songwriter whose impact reached every corner of popular music. Tragedy struck Barry's life with the loss of his brothers. Morris passed away in 2003 and Robin followed in 2012. These losses were devastating, not only personally but also professionally, as the Bee Gees had always been built on the bond between the brothers. Barry often spoke of them with deep love, emphasizing that their spirits lived on through the music they created together. While grief could have silenced him, Barry chose resilience. He continued performing, carrying the Bee Gees' songs to audiences worldwide as a way of honoring Maurice and Robin. His ability to balance heartbreak with strength became a defining part of his legacy. For fans, it was a reminder that behind the glamorous stage lights stood a man who, like everyone else, carried scars, but who chose to turn pain into timeless art. Barry's achievements have been celebrated with some of the highest honors in the music industry. In 1997, the Bee Gees were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a moment that solidified their place in history. In 2018, Barry received one of the greatest recognitions of all, a knighthood. Honored for his contributions to music and charity, he became Sir Barry Gibb. It was a testament not just to his commercial success, but to the cultural and humanitarian impact of his work. Across his 6-decade career, Barry collected countless awards from Grammys to Lifetime Achievement honors. But for him, the greatest reward was always the connection with audiences who found pieces of their own stories in his songs. Today, Barry Gibb stands as a living legend. His career has spanned more than 6 decades. His voice has filled countless arenas, and his songs have sold hundreds of millions of copies worldwide. Yet beyond the numbers lies something more profound. A man whose resilience, creativity, and compassion have touched generations. By finally opening up about Roy Orbison's influence, Barry revealed the humility at the heart of his greatness. Even at the height of his fame, he remained a student of music, learning from those he admired and channeling those lessons into his own art. Barry Gibb's story is not just about fame. It is about endurance, love, and legacy. His music will continue to echo through time, reminding us that true artistry never fades. It only grows stronger with every passing generation. Barry Gibb's impact did not end with his own era. His music became a guiding star for future generations of artists across genres. Pop stars, country singers, R&B performers, and even indie musicians have drawn inspiration from the Bee Gees' catalog. His falsetto-driven style, once seen as daring, is now celebrated as a groundbreaking contribution to vocal performance. Artists from Coldplay to Justin Timberlake have cited the Bee Gees as influences, while younger songwriters often study Barry's ability to craft melodies that stay timeless. His songwriting principles, simplicity, emotional honesty, and universal appeal continue to shape the industry. In interviews, Barry often expressed pride in knowing that his work still resonates with those who were not even born when the Bee Gees topped the charts. This enduring influence demonstrates that true artistry transcends time, speaking to hearts across generations. In later years, Barry often reflected on the philosophy that guided him through fame, tragedy, and renewal. To him, music was never just a career, it was a lifeline. He believed that songs had the power to heal, to unite, and to remind people of their shared humanity. He frequently emphasized that his greatest joy was not awards or recognition, but the connection with listeners. Whether it was someone dancing to Night Fever in the 1970s or a teenager discovering To Love Somebody decades later, Barry valued the emotional bridge his songs created, life. He believed was about resilience and gratitude. Having experienced profound loss, he encouraged others to cherish family, creativity, and love. These reflections revealed a man who, despite global fame, remained grounded in values that mattered most. For Barry, legacy was not only about records sold, but about the lives touched through music. When Barry finally spoke openly about Roy Orbison, fans understood why he had held such admiration for so long. Orbison, with his operatic range and unmatched emotional delivery, was one of the few singers Barry admitted could move him deeply. Barry revealed that as a young artist, he would often study Orbison's performances, not to imitate them, but to learn how emotion could be carried through every note. He admired the way Orbison's songs balanced vulnerability with strength, turning heartbreak into something majestic. According to Barry, Orbison showed him that being unafraid of sensitivity was a form of power. He confessed that Orbison's influence lingered in many Bee Gees songs. The haunting qualities in tracks like To Love Somebody and the aching sincerity in How Deep Is Your Love were, in part, inspired by the lessons Barry absorbed from Orbison's artistry. By acknowledging this, Barry not only paid tribute to a fellow legend, but also reminded fans that even the greatest icons stand on the shoulders of those who came before them. It was a gesture of humility and honesty, proving once more that Barry Gibb's greatness lay not only in his own genius, but also in his ability to honor the truth of influence.